Well, my original plan for a video this week was to just talk about No Surrender and how Bound for Glory is shaping up and all of that nature, but obviously because of what happened on Raw this week, that plan kind of fell to the wayside, and I decided to do this video instead. And I have to say that this week's Monday Night Raw was one of the hardest shows to watch that I've ever seen, and it had nothing to do with the entertainment. It was just the serious situation of what was going on really made it hard to watch. But I felt like I had to watch it just to get updates on what was going on, and I was having horrible flashbacks to Over the Edge 1999, the show where Owen Hart died. And for those of you who didn't order that pay-per-view like I did, or maybe you're too young and weren't around when that show happened, but I'm telling you that was one of the most surreal things that I've ever watched. It was sad, it was tragic, it was shocking, and I was just left sitting there not really knowing what to do, to the point that whatever was going on for the rest of the show didn't really sink in, because my mind was solely on that. And I'm not going to criticize the WWE for continuing the show, because it might not be entirely a money thing. It might also be a let's not panic thousands of people type of thing. So I can understand continuing the show. But what happened to Jerry Lawler was so shocking, and so it was sad. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be Jerry Lawler's biggest fan, because if you've watched my previous videos, you know I'm not. And to say otherwise would just be a bold-faced lie. But I never wished harm on him. I never wished anything truly bad to happen to him. Obviously, my best wishes go out to him. It sounds like the worst is over and he's pulling through okay, which is great to hear. But when I'd heard he'd collapsed, well, first of all, going back to the match itself where it happened, I was kind of half paying attention to the show. I was just watching an internet video. So I was actually watching something on thatguywiththeglasses.com. It was their big 4th year anniversary thing. I was watching part of that. And I was kind of half paying attention to the match. And after a few minutes, I kind of looked up and I was like, Lawler's being awfully quiet. And sure enough, it came out that he had collapsed. And even then, I kind of thought, well, maybe, he just passed out and they were just going to give him smelling salts or something backstage and he would just be okay. Maybe he just overexerted himself in the match and he got lightheaded or something, and that's all that happened. But then when Michael Cole gave his first update, I was like, oh, that's not good. That's really bad. And I'll be honest, I thought he was dead. Throughout the show and the way it was playing off, it felt like the WWE... And by the way, credit to Michael Cole for being able to handle that very, very tough situation. He deserves a lot of credit for that. But it felt like, to me, they were kind of holding back a little bit, and they didn't want to say the worst had happened. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It just felt like there was something, what they weren't telling us, and what they weren't telling us was much worse than what we'd heard. And it didn't sound good. It didn't look good. And I thought Lawler was dead. I really did. I thought that was going to be like, okay, look, I'm going to go on the internet and it's going to turn out as dead. And even after the show had gone off the air and we hadn't gotten a word yet, and they'd given a slight encouragement that he was responsive, I half expected to wake up the next morning and read that he had passed away, because it did not sound good. It didn't look good. And I'm glad to find out that he's turned out okay. But I'm going to make this point here, and it's not to be cruel. It's not a haha, I told you so type of thing. It's more of a, when I talk in my videos about how I don't think 60-year-old men should be wrestling, part of that has to do with the fact that they can't perform up to the level that they used to. Part of that has to do with, I think it's absurd for, younger talents that are jacked up to have to sell for men that are twice their age, and look every bit of that. And I usually talk about Ric Flair when I bring this up, but a major reason why I don't want 60-year-old men to be wrestling, guys like Flair, guys like Hogan, guys like Lawler, guys like Bret Hart, is because I fear for their safety and I fear for their well-being. And when you're that age and you get in the ring and start exerting yourself in that kind of physical way, the cardiovascular conditioning might not be there, and you open yourself up to stuff like that happening. Mike DiBiase, who was the father of the $1 Million Man, he died in the ring. He was only 40-something years old. And so now you got guys in their 60s going out there and wrestling every once in a while. Bret Hart goes out there and has a match and has a bad fall, because he's not supposed to bump, period. If he goes out there and has a bad fall, I mean, God only knows what's going to happen to him. Ric Flair, I honest to God had a fan say to me once that it would be an honor for him to watch Ric Flair die in the ring. To which I say, well, you got a small preview of that on Raw this week. Do you still want it? My guess is probably no. It's sad. It's horrible. I don't want that to happen. And they shouldn't have to get in the ring at that age. And at the very least, they should have to pass a physical or something. Because if Lawler had gone to a doctor just a week prior, they would have found something that could have been treated and probably told him, look, you can't get in the ring. I heard he worked indie shows the weekend prior to Monday Night Raw, and there's no doubt in my mind that all of that physical exertion of having to wrestle throughout the weekend and then on Monday Night Raw, no doubt in my mind that triggered the heart attack and what happened to him. And hopefully, something as horrible and as scary as this serves as a indicator of, look, this is what happens when you're that age and you step in the ring and try to go. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it now. It's just really, really horrible, and I'm just glad the King's okay. It seems like he's going to be okay, but yeah, it was absolutely horrible to see that go down. But hopefully I have a cheerier, more happy video at some point later in the week. We'll see what happens. I'm going to wait until after Impact before I comment on No Surrender and Bound for Glory and all that jazz, because I want to see how things play out. But yeah, again, best wishes, best prayers go out to the Jerry the King Lawler and his family, and hopefully things get better for him going forward, and hopefully I never have to make another video like this again. So until then, later everybody.